Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back to Wall Street Silver. Joining us today is Nick Santiago, President, CEO of InTheMoneyStocks.com. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a huge pleasure having you join Wall Street Silver. We want to talk to you about what's happening in the markets, what's happening with precious metals, the Federal Reserve. What's concerning you right now for the next, from now to, let's say, 2024? What are you watching?
Well, we had a lot of money printing go on since March, and we don't call it quantitative easing anymore. Now we call it, discount window for the banks. We call it, some kind of central bank liquidity program. We're going to provide liquidity for each other. So, that in essence, that's your rally right there. As long as there's liquidity in the system, the markets go higher. Now I think we're getting very complacent here. As you know, the Fed just raised rates by another 25 basis points. So we're now at 5.25% to 5.5%. But what everybody should be following is a 2-year Treasury note yield. If that 2-year Treasury note yield starts to get towards that 5.25% to 5.5%, that's when you know what is going to hit the fan, and these markets will come down very, very quickly. In fact, just the other day we had just little talk that Japan was going to, maybe throw a monkey wrench in the
Oh,
carry trade.
yeah. Yeah, I seen that.
And look at the panic that happened, right? That followed just so quickly. So this market, while it's going higher, it's a game of musical chairs because it's all about liquidity. And if any little bit of liquidity comes out of the system, the house of cards starts to come down. So I think traders got to be on guard for that.
So that's basically what people are waiting for next is any liquidity that leaves out the system in a flash, then you're going to see the house of cards fall. That's kind of what you're thinking.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see that too. I think it's going to start probably in more towards October.
Right.
But we'll start to see flashes of it in August and September. We know is always a tumultuous month, right? September historically is a very trying month for the bulls. So it's been a great rally. I mean, it's been tremendous. But now is when showtime comes around, and we'll see. And a lot of people don't realize the Fed is still doing what they say, quantitative tightening.
Right.
Now, I don't know how well that's going for them, since they're selling bonds on one end, and then they're injecting liquidity in another end. So
Right.
you can't make too much out of this stuff. It's very hard, and the details are sketchy. So if you want to apply mathematics to it, it's a little bit tough. So I just use simple moving averages and trend lines, and let the market tell me what to do.
And now, Nick, what are you seeing? How will it affect precious metals, silver and gold? Like, let's say liquidity starts leaving the market around September or October, and you start seeing the house of cards falling. Will that bring down silver and gold too, or will it be the other way?
It will bring them down initially.
Right.
So we'll get a pullback initially. But remember, gold and silver really are going to go up on confidence or lack of confidence in government. So that's what's going to happen. So I don't think we're going to see any kind of major, sell off in the precious metals. I've worked out my levels. Silver futures get down to 21 area. You got to kind of start nibbling there. They get down to 19. You just back up the truck and load the boat.
Right.
I mean, you just have to go all in at that level.
Right.
And gold, I have gold levels 1,800. I'm getting interested. 1,600, I back it up, and you just hang on for the ride, because we know, we ultimately know where they're going. We're in the beginning of a commodity boom. And this year we may not see it so much. There'll be certain commodities that start to take off, but silver's already bottomed. Silver bottomed in September of 2022. I was a buyer August 31st, and every member of mine still to this day is thankful. We bought down there at those dead lows, 1740. And
Wow.
silver's going to go well into the mid 30s. So, again, you get another shot. You'll get, it always gives you another chance. Maybe not at the dead low, but you get it down. Silver futures around 21. Get them at 19. I mean, you just don't even think about it. You just load up on silver all you can.
And Nick, how is your portfolio or your strategy at In the Money Stocks when you're looking at, let's say, precious metals? Do you guys go just physical? Do you guys look at the miners, producers? What's your portfolio looking like, if you don't mind me asking?
No, so that's a great question. So what I like to do is I'll buy things like GLD. I'll buy things like SLV. I'll get into the miners as well. And we always want to see the miners lead the actual metal. That's the real telltale sign that the bull is
Right.
in. When the miners start to lead the actual metal, that's a little tip off to say, hey, this this rally is just getting going, and we haven't seen that yet. But I buy a mixture of everything. In fact, when I pulled off the silver trade, I got into SLV, I got into various silver miners on a swing play, and then I did a lot of options too. I bought a lot of silver and gold miners with options, and I bought SLV with options, and that's
Hmm.
the way I like to do it. I like to mix it up. There's not, it's not a one-trick pony. When they all go, you never know who's going to lead the race. So you want to have a little mixture of everything.
Right. And as this recession starts to heat up later in the year, or let's say going into 2024, are there any other markets or any other sectors that you are watching for that will be hit? Like how will the housing market look, or the commercial real estate market look? Are you watching that at all, Nick?
Yeah, and I've actually been wrong on residential real estate, because I really can't believe how high it is now.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
if you look at something like the ITB, it's flying off the charts. It's defying gravity, even with interest rates as high as they are. Right, mortgage
Right.
rates are now 7%, but nobody seems to care, and that's just probably due to lack of supply. You got companies out there like Blackstone and BlackRock. They've bought a lot of single family homes. They've taken a lot of supply off the market, and
Hmm.
that's certainly what's probably keeping the prices there. But as for commercial real estate, I don't think that's going a lot lower. I know everybody is calling for that to be a calamity, and but I'm looking at something like the IYR, which is real estate ETF, commercial real estate ETF, and I just don't see that going a lot lower right now. So I wouldn't get short that at the moment. They might take all those empty buildings that are in the cities and make them into 15-minute cities. So, I wouldn't write them off just yet. The charts are not signaling a lot further, much further downside.
Absolutely. And Nick, there's been a lot of news lately about the BRICS nations and Russia, China, a lot of those countries like even Brazil. They're trying to do their own separate currency backed by either gold or a basket of commodities. Do you think that will work, or is that all smoke and mirrors? Or what do you think about the BRICS nations?
Well, I think it could work, but it will take time. That's
Right,
something that's just not going to happen overnight. Now, all of these countries want to get rid of the dollar because the dollar has been used as a weapon,
right.
right? Even look at, Russia basically has been canceled, so to speak. So I don't blame them. If I was another country, I'd want to do it. And if you could back it by gold, the better off you'll be. You'll have a strong currency and it'll have something viable. But I do think something like that could come along. But we're starting to see the beginning of these central bank digital currencies, right? Russia's already started a digital, central bank
Yeah,
ruble. So that's going to continue. We have Fed now going on in the U.S. You could see there's a full push now for these central bank digital currencies to come into play. We probably see. I wouldn't rule out Europe at the end of this year implementing their version of it. So you're starting to see that as well. So I'm not really so concerned about the BRICS nations, because I think that's going to be a tough endeavor to
right.
pull off and to get it going. You got 40 countries interested, or over 40 now. It's a little bit tough to get that off the ground, but they'll get some kind of digital currency off the ground, I suppose. Since people are hooked on that.
Hmm.
But in time, they could get a BRICS currency, but it would take, I would think, 4 to 5 years.
Absolutely. And even the Federal Reserve, they just came out with a payment plan called Fed Now in July. And that's people are kind of like defining it or naming it as a CBDC, a central bank digital currency. Do you think in America a CBDC will work, or people are just pushing too much for privacy, and that's a huge concern for them?
Well, I think that a CBDC is going to be a tough endeavor, because the
Right,
people don't want that. They don't
right.
want that. You can't go ahead and pay your babysitter for watching your 3-year-old for 4 hours and get taxed on it. That's what's going to happen. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
you
crazy.
know, just think about all the money that gets lent out, or money given out to Ukraine. Yet, the Treasury wants to, or the IRS wants to take your Venmo account for $600 and tax you on it.
Yeah, it's
It's just
crazy.
gotten so crazy. People will definitely stand up at some point. There's only so much, people can take, right? You can't get pushed around forever. So, there's only so much you can take. But some of these rules and these laws are just, so ridiculous. So we'll see how it goes. But, you're going to see the adoption of it in other places first. The U.S. will probably be the last place, but they're going to try to push it here.
Yeah, absolutely. And just heading back to the economy, what do you think Powell's going to do next? You think he's going to raise rates, pause? Will it be like a 0.25 basis point, right? Like the recent one he did? What do you think?
Well, I think he'll probably look to stall and not do
Right.
anything on the next one. And they'll basically say, we have to let these rate hikes, come full circle now. They haven't really kicked
Hmm.
in. Give you some rhetoric like that. But the reality of it is you have to watch that 2-year treasury note yield. Anybody that's been in this business, I've been in this business 30 years. Everybody knows we don't even need a central bank. If you just let the Fed funds rate or the overnight bank lending rate as what it is, just track the 2-year treasury note yield.
Hmm.
And you just keep an eye on that yield. If the treasury note yield on the 2-year starts to get to 5.5, 5.75, the Fed has no doubt they have to raise. Plus, inflation's not going to go away.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the gas pump right now. We're almost back to $4 here.
Yeah,
I
it's
live in
crazy.
Florida. I mean, it's not going away. And you have a war going on in Russia and Ukraine. That is inflationary. Get some more supply disruption, some more train derailments. That's inflationary. So, inflation's
Yeah.
just not leaving us anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to just thank you so much, Nick, for coming down to Wall Street Silver. But before you go, do you have any last words for the audience and leave them with a little bit of knowledge or whatever your last words are?
Well, I always tell everybody, I'm not smart enough to figure all of this stuff out, right? But I am smart enough to figure out money flow via the charts. So if
Right.
I were to tell anybody what to do, I would tell them to get educated on the charts, learn how to read the money flow, learn what the markets are doing, because you can have a bull run like this inside of really, on the cusp of a recession. And you may
Yeah.
not make any money, or you may be battling the market trying to fight it short. You want to go with the trend. The trend is your friend, except at the end. But it'll tell you when it's going to change. So learn
Yeah.
the chart. That's my best advice to everybody out there.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you so much, Nick, for coming down to Wall Street Silver. And hopefully, as the market develops in the next month or two, we can have you back and then talk about the markets.
It sounds good. Thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. Talk to you soon.